High severity CVEs are always a nightmare, but they're even more of a nightmare when they occur during a holiday. Specifically, this latest one with the XZ Trojan being discovered and disclosed over this last Easter weekend. So I wanted to make a quick PSA about this and discuss this in regards to NixOS specifically, because this is, mainly a NixOS channel. Whatever system you may be using, definitely do your own research into this, because this is a level 10 CVE as far as I understand it. I don't mean to spread fear with this video, but it is an ongoing situation, and so you just need to be advised about it. Now, I'm going to leave a bunch of resources pointing out more specific details about this in the description below, so you can read up on it yourself. But the quick TLDR of this, if you have somehow been under a rock and haven't heard about this, there was a Trojan discovered in the XZ package in the 5.6.x version, so 5.6.0 and 5.6.1. This Trojan was not distributed in the source code of the package, but it was distributed in the GitHub release of the package. And so from my research, it seems to be the case that this is mainly targeting Debian and Fedora systems. They pull the packages from those GitHub releases, and it seems to be the case that the exploit specifically triggers for those Debian and Fedora systems. However, NixOS and many other distributions, I believe Arch, I believe also OpenSUSE, and I also think Alpine, there's probably more than just that. They also built the XZ package from this same GitHub release file. And so as the situation is evolving, even if the primary exploit that everyone is super concerned about is not necessarily, doesn't seem to be triggered in these other distros, it's still a cause for concern. And we want to be as careful as possible when anything related to security. So with regards to NixOS, what is the situation with NixOS? If you go to Nix packages, the issue at the very top, it's like a pinned issue, is this XZ 5.6.x is Trojan. Again, you can read through the discussion here yourself, but what it seems, so if you are using NixOS stable, meaning like 23.11, the package is not at this version yet. So you're roughly speaking, you're probably fine. If you're using unstable, however, then you are running this version of the package 5.6.1, and that could pose a security risk to your system. There have been some people that have been testing with this, trying to get the exploit to, trying to pull off the exploit. Essentially how the exploit is supposed to work is it injects something during the build with this some sort of suspicious makefile or something like that. Again, I'm not a security expert, so I might be getting a few things wrong here. But essentially the exploit starts during build time, and then once the exploit is built into the package, then it can be used for these nefarious purposes. Essentially, specifically, the main concern seems to be everyone is having that when XZ is bundled with SSH, it breaks the SSH daemon in such a way that it's easy to bypass the authentication in SSHD. So at this point, the primary concern is if you're running SSHD. So that's like you have SSH running on your machine and you could remote into the machine. That machine that is being remoted into, that's the primary security concern here. Though as the situation evolves, we might discover more. The suspicious committer, Giatan, has been committing to both the XZ repo and the libarchive repo for about 2 years. And so we don't necessarily know to what extent there's more vulnerabilities planted in here, but this is the main one that they discovered. Okay, now quick post edit I wanted to make here after doing a little more research before posting this video. looking into sort of the extent of how sophisticated this attack was, it's not, this Trojan is not just an SSH authorization bypass. It's actual full remote code execution. I think it still requires SSH daemon to be running for this to be pulled off, but this is a very, very sophisticated attack. As some reverse engineering was done here, they discovered that it is remote code execution, and it's also unreplayable. So whoever was doing this is a very, very sophisticated attack, because it's actually not reproducible in a certain sense. So this is continually evolving, and more and more information will be available. So however safe we might think we are, for whatever reason, that could change as more and more research is done into this. NixOS unstable systems are running a version that has the Trojan bundled with it. Now, with regards to NixOS, there are a few silver linings to this that I'd like to go over. It seems to be the case that one of the requirements for the exploit to actually happen is that SSH needs to be running from a normal file system hierarchy, which NixOS, of course, does not have. And that means it needs to be running from /user/sbin/sshd, which that's not where it would be running from on NixOS. It'd be running from somewhere in the Nix store. So, okay, that's good. What else? It also seems to be the case that, and this goes into how the exploit was originally discovered. When the exploit is built into SSH with XZ, it seems to slow down and cause like unnecessary CPU usage in SSH and with XZ, and this is not observed in NixOS with this 5.6.1 version. So with this 5.6.1 version, another thing as well to mention is that the exploit seems to be specifically bad when XZ is bundled with SSHD in order to show like systemd notifications, which is what the default is on Debian and Fedora. Pretty sure. Again, any of you in the comment section, correct me if I've got this wrong. But in any case, NixOS does not do this in their build of it. So even though the code was bundled with the package that gets downloaded, in a sense, that vulnerable code is not. It doesn't seem to be being executed because the actual vulnerabilities were not built during the build time. Now, all of that being said, this is still a very high severity CVE, and I think it would be hubris to assume that, oh, we're probably fine, because that's typically how people get hacked. When you just assume, oh, I'm probably fine, that's when you tend to get hacked. So in the discussion, one of the things that was brought up, why not just downgrade XZ for the entire system in NixOS? Now, the problem with this and the reason why they haven't done this, XZ is a fundamental dependency for NixOS. XZ is a requirement for the standard environment, or std env, to be built, and that is what builds literally everything on NixOS. I'm pretty sure something like that. So if they just all of a sudden, now if they downgraded XZ to the known not vulnerable version, what that would do is it would instantly cause a, like, I think 220,000 package rebuild on the Nix build servers, and which, like, that would hold up the build queue for like an entire week, as far as I understand. And you could also conceivably imagine, okay, what if I forced the build dependency of XZ to be downgraded on my system, which you could do with an overlay. If you did that, you would be forced to rebuild literally the entire system from scratch. And that could be like, if you have as bloated as a system as me, it could easily be 14 or 15,000 packages that you're compiling from source, which some of them you'll be able to compile pretty quickly, some of them not so much. And specifically, and especially if you don't have enough RAM on your system, your computer will just crash during some of the builds. I have 64 gigabytes of RAM, so I might be able to do that, but I would probably also be waiting for an entire week just for my system to rebuild, which that's not a feasible solution. Okay, so all of this being said, again, if you're on NixOS stable, you're most likely fine. You probably want to keep tabs on this to see if there was any exploits discovered in earlier versions, but the main big exploit that everyone's concerned about, you're not affected by at all. If you're on NixOS unstable, you're probably not affected, but you probably still want to do something to mitigate it. So what are the relevant mitigations for this attack? The first and most obvious mitigation for this is, if you're able to, switching from NixOS unstable to the stable version. So for example, on something like a flake, you could just go to your flake.nix and change the Nix packages URL from NixOS unstable to NixOS 23-11. So if you did that and you rebuilt your system, it would no longer be touched by this vulnerability at that point. Now, that being said, there's a reason why people use NixOS unstable. There's probably some packages or versions of packages there that you actually need to use, like for me. So what are some other mitigations for this? Another mitigation you can consider is to completely disable any SSH access. If you're running this on like a laptop or a desktop that you don't really ever use SSH on it, and you've never configured SSH, it's probably already disabled. But if you want to make sure that SSH is disabled, you can go ahead and navigate to your configuration.nix. Wrong one. Here we go, configuration.nix, and add this line here. So services.openssh.enable equals lib.makeforce false. So that should prevent any prevent the SSH daemon from running, essentially, or at least it won't be running the Nix way. However, if you are running a server and you're disabling your SSH access, it's not probably going to work that well for you, right? Because you need SSH access to manage the server. So what do you do if you have a server that is running NixOS unstable? Well, my honest recommendation would just be to turn that server offline if you can. That's what I'm doing with my home lab server for the time being, until I have more time to like fully and properly evaluate all of the potential problems with not only the NixOS system on it, but also any of the Docker containers that I'm running. I'm pretty sure they're fine because they're all running like highly stable stuff. But that being said, I want to verify that before I have it fully back online. So if you're in the case that you have a server running NixOS unstable, you probably can get by just switching to the stable branch. But if you really can't get by, downgrading your system from unstable to stable, there's another mitigation that I'll mention here that I saw as I was researching this. This one is courtesy of Dark Curb on GitHub. So shout out to them for this code snippet. But it turns out you can kind of get around the whole problem of modifying the XZ version requiring you to rebuild your whole system, because the reason that it forces you to rebuild your entire system is because NixOS wants things to be evaluated in a extremely declarative and reproducible way. And when a build is declarative and reproducible and all these nice things, we call it a pure evaluation. But we can also tell Nix to do things in a quote-unquote impure way. And so you can do this. You can add this code as well here. This is one of the things I'm doing as well for the time being, to replace the XZ package that's currently in NixOS Unstable with the XZ version, which is in staging next, which essentially how this works. Staging next, I believe, is like the first place that changes get introduced into Nix packages. And then I think they just go to like staging. And then after that, they go to the master branch, and then like unstable, and then eventually to the stable branches. It's something like that. I'm not fully confident on that, but I know that staging next is like basically the first place that changes go to. So they have already downgraded XZ on the staging next branch. And so you can, if you're using flakes, you can use this trick to introduce another version of Nix packages. In order to do that, you go back to your flake. So here's flake.nix. So in your inputs, you would add another input for Nix packages staging next. So you'd have your normal Nix packages URL, and then you'd add Nix packages staging next URL, and that'll just be Nix packages / staging next for that branch. Once you have it there, you can go up to your outputs, and we can go to the let binding. And in the let binding, there's probably some place where you are declaring packages. This is how I declare my packages using NixOS Unstable, and I do some patching, but that's sort of irrelevant. You'll need to also declare another set of packages. So in this case, packages staging next, and I do it like this. So it's import Nix packages / staging / next, and then just telling it your system architecture. So probably like inherit system or x86 _64 - Linux. This is probably the type of system that you'd be running on this, but you know your architecture, so just put that in there. And also, this will not work unless you add the Nix packages staging next as an argument to your outputs. So on the top of your outputs, you'd add it to this section here, where outputs equals, and then there's these squiggly brackets. That's, again, declaring the arguments for the function, tell us our outputs. So you just want to make sure that that's in there as well. Okay, once you have all that, you can use the special args trick that I've talked about in previous videos. For home manager, you would put it in the extra special args block, like I have it right here. And for NixOS configurations, for that section, you would put it in a special args block right here, special arg attribute set. There it is, packages / staging / next. I think we really only need this for the NixOS configurations because this is sort of like a system level thing. Once you have all of that set up in your flake.nix, then you're able to go back to your configuration.nix. So this is my configuration.nix. You would add packages staging next as an argument to your configuration.nix along with the normal set of packages. And then this line right here, or this section, I guess, system.replace runtime dependencies. You can add the original being packages.xz being replaced with the replacement equals packages - staging - next.xz. When you do this, a normal NixOS rebuild command will no longer work. It will error out, and it will tell you probably something like, this is an impure evaluation. So in order to get around this, you just have to slightly modify how you do your rebuild. So odds are your normal rebuild is something like sudo NixOS rebuild switch, and then -- flake, and your where your flake is. In order to make it impure, you just tell it -- impure, like that. And if you do this, it will replace the XZ version that is being run by the system at runtime. So if you go ahead and do that, you can then verify that the version, the XZ package, was actually downgraded for the runtime by running XZ version. And if it says 5.4.6, then it worked. If it says 5.6.1 or 5.6.0, in that case, then this like runtime patch didn't like work. So that would mean that your system is still potentially vulnerable. Now, this is a cool fix that you can use to still use unstable and still be kind of safe. But I want to be clear about this. This is not a end-all be-all solution to this issue, because even though the runtime version of XZ that's running on the system is this downgraded version, then still all the other packages on your system that are running from NixOS-unstable were built using XZ 5.6.1. And so again, it's still being discovered all the things that this Trojan is potentially doing. So this is definitely not as good of a fix as just switching back to the stable branch. Unfortunately for me, I don't think I'm in the position for this system to actually switch down to the stable branch, because there's like tons and tons of packages on my system that they either need to be at the unstable branch version, or like they just don't actually exist in the stable branch. And I don't want to go back and rewrite my whole config just for like a few packages. So in any case, those are some things that you can do to mitigate for the time being. So again, if you're one of the crazy people like me that is using NixOS unstable, do keep tabs on this situation, because it's continually evolving and we're still learning more and more about it with each passing hour and each passing day. So like I've said, I'm not a security expert or security researcher by any means. If you have more expertise in security, or if you know of some other mitigations with regards to NixOS, or just any new information that you want to mention in the comment section, please do so, so that anyone who is watching this, if I neglected something, or if there's something else that's also like a viable thing to consider during this, they can get that information there. But I will also leave some links to some more in-depth information about the whole situation in the description down below, so definitely check all of those out. And that'll be it for today. Hope you have a good rest of your day, everyone, and stay safe out there. Catch you all later.